Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. So today this is a demo session for Opentext Vim vendor invoice management for the version 7.5. So I'll just give you an overview of this module, what I'm going to cover in the training, and I have experience on Vim 7.5, handling both support as well as implementation projects. So that's my experience in terms of Vim. May I know, like, what is your experience and what is your expectation, Lasit, from this course?
Yeah, see, basically, I'm a finance person, so I'm not a SAP. I did my FIC or training and all a few years back, but not into core SAP functional side of things. But I have been managing finance for a company here, government department here, project finance person, and I do involve in the procurement side of things. So procurement in the sense. I manage the workflow for raising all the purchase orders and the vendor creation and the goods receipting and that sort of thing. So I thought it may be good if I get a bit more idea about the technical side of things, and that's what my expectation is.
Okay, great, got it. So you are from SAP FI background and you do have experience.
Correct. Yeah, I'm basically a finance person and I have worked on SAP, basically as a finance person for many years, around 15 to 18 years. And I worked on a few implementations also, basically as a finance lead. And on the project side also, projects, PMPS implementation and all I have, but not on the technical side, but as a, the business finance lead. In the finance.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thanks, Lasit. And who else we have on this? And we have, can we have some background about the remaining participants, please? Like Jeevan, maybe. Jeevan, could you hear me, Jeevan?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I can
myself
hear you.
Jeevan Yawalkar. Yeah, myself Jeevan. I'm an SAP consultant since last 4 years. Okay. I have implementation experience of SAP module, and I'm also working on SD side, and I have been asked to check what exactly how we can work on Vim. So that's my intention, basically, to check it out exactly what is vendor invoice management, so that we can integrate in our current current process.
Okay, understand. All right, and how about Naveen Kumar?
Hello.
Hi, Naveen.
Yeah, hello, sir. Sir, yeah, I am new to VIM, so I have not worked on it so far. So just I want to know how the thing going on in Vim. So I attended.
Okay, you have a prior knowledge about SAP, Naveen? Do you have prior knowledge about it?
Yes, I'm into SAP FI around four plus years.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah, that helps actually. That's the reason I'm asking. Thank you. And sorry, go ahead. Sorry, you have a question, Naveen?
Yeah. No, not right now. Not right now.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry, Nirmal. You're also from SAP background, Nirmal?
Hello, Satya. Hey, morning, all. So yeah, I'm also SAP background. So I'm working in SAP module, and my expectation from this training is I just wanted to understand, the concept of Vim. What is the configuration we have to do in system to connect the OCR with the SAP system, and how this solution works. And it would be great if you can tell the differences between this Vim solution and the COFEX solution. I think COFEX is the one of the vendor invoice management where we can scan it. So if you have background of COFEX and SAP Opentext, what is the difference? It would be great if you can tell us. in that area also?
I don't have experience or knowledge about COFAX. I know about VIM, Opentext VIM, but I cannot give the differences between these two, Nirmal.
Okay, no worries. Then I will look for the Opentext only.
Okay, but what is
Thank
your
you.
requirement? What is your requirement?
My requirement is basically one of we are evaluating VIM, Opentext, and COFAX, and then one of the solution needs to be implemented to the client side. So I want to understand how the solution works and what are the things we have to do to implement the VIM solution. So client suggested either use COFAX or Opentext. So I need to understand one of the tool.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, in terms of Opentext, it is a native component, right? It is a SAP works in partnership with SAP. So our workflows or the ABAP stack, it resides on ABAP stack versus COFAX. It is a bolt-on system where you need to integrate SAP, which requires a lot of adapters for connecting or APIs, connecting between COFAX with SAP native. It's not a native or an integrated or a kind of native workflows will not be used or cannot be used. And also you would have to find not only this technical aspect, but also from the financial aspect also you may consider between those two comparisons. But at a high level I can provide you this, but at a deep dive I cannot provide about COFAX because I did not work on COFAX.
Yeah. Okay, no worries, Satya. It's fine. Thanks.
So sorry. What is the topic about COFAX? Sir? Can you just?
It is a COFAX, KOFAX. So it's a tool of scanning the invoice and send it to SAP.
Okay. Yeah, I never heard about it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dirbal. And can we have some intro about Ramesh, followed by Tarun? Hi, Ramesh.
Yeah, hi, Satya. I have 12 years of finance domain experience and close to 13 years into SAP FICO, FSCM, and ISH. And involved in implementation, carve-out, rollout, support projects.
Into FI, Ramesh, or into MM?
Yeah.
You're
into FI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And how about Tarun? Hi, Tarun.
Yeah. Hi, myself Tarun. I'm an Ariba consultant, and I have an experience of around 5 years in Ariba as well as SAP SRM, and I also have some knowledge on SAP MM side. My expectation is how Ariba can be integrated with VIM and how the invoices flow from the Ariba network to SAP VIM.
Okay. So
once the invoice reach to SAP VIM, what will happen in the VIM side? That is my expectation.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I can explain that. In fact, Ariba, but in our current version, which version are you using in the VIM? We are going to teach in this. We are going to cover VIM 7.5 version, Tarun.
Okay, actually, I don't have idea about a VIM site. I heard about it, and one of my client wants to implement that. So I just want to have a solution overview how it works and everything.
At a high level, like, are you using Ariba CIG for connectivity to ECC or S4?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have Ariba CIG.
And do you also use VIM? VIM already it is installed on SAP?
Yes, VIM add-on is installed in our ERPs.
So you have access to knowledge portal on the Opentext?
Exactly, yeah, we have.
Okay, so in the Opentext, they give the integration when you go to the documentation, VIM documentation, they provide Opentext integration with Ariba. In that, they provide the transports. So you need to work with the basis team, asking them to import those transports. Once you import those transports, you need to configure in Ariba in Opentext VIM to enable those Ariba channel. And then basically what happens is from the Opentext, when you're posting an invoice from Ariba network, it flows via Ariba CIG and creates an IDOC. into Vim.
Yes.
Once
Yes.
you
Yes.
install these transports, and these IDOCs, based on the defined business rules, it's going to trigger the exceptions. So IDOC, I'm going to cover shortly. I just took a background, but just for you, rest of the folks, please hold on. I'll explain it in detail in a few minutes. But when you get those IDOCs, the IDOC comes into Vim, and then DP document gets created, which triggers the business exception rules. So that once those exceptions are cleared, it creates a SAP. Whether if it is a PO-based invoice, it's going to create a LIV document in S4 or ECC, or if it is a non-PO invoice, it's going to create a FA document in SAP S4 or ECC. So these invoices will be subjected to payment process. That's how the Ariba, from Ariba, given the transports are installed, it allows, once you make the configuration, you can receive invoices in IDOC format from Ariba network.
Yep. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so let me quickly show what we are going to cover right in this course. Let me see if I. Are you able to see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
You can see it. Okay. So this is just a quick overview. What is Vim? Why? Let's say that we have the basic question always arises is when you're creating an invoice using MIRO transaction in SAP, or when you can use FD60 for non-PO invoices. Why do you need Vim? What exactly Vim does? How it helps? So Vim is nothing but vendor invoice management, which is a product of Opentext, right? This helps in reducing the cycle times. What does that mean? This is reducing the cycle time, right? So we have all this, whenever we receive an invoice, if there are any exceptions, right, that exceptions will be automatically triggered and route them to the right role, like we configure. For example, if there are issues with suspected duplicate of an invoice, that goes to the accounts payable team for them to resolve, instead of waiting for the system, right, to resolve. Rather than it goes directly, we can route the system to trigger a notification to the accounts payable team for them to identify. So this duplicate invoices can be identified as a sort of one exception, or we can improve the invoice processing time. How we can do that? Let's say that you receive an invoice, you receive a vendor invoice, a paper-based invoice. What happens if you do not have them? An accounts payable person goes into SAP, issues the command or uses the transaction code MIRO, and then manually checks that paper-based invoice data and keys in manually, right? And then if there are any exceptions, then he manually has to reach out to each of the individual persons who can resolve those issues, and then once this issue gets resolved, then that accounts payable person can post or process such invoice. So this takes a lot of time, right? Instead, what Opentext does is that, let's say that we receive from email. Opentext Vim is enabled to receive invoices from the vendor via email channel. That is one of the channels. So from the email, if the vendor sends a PDF invoice copy via email, that invoice, the attachment gets received by Vim and then stores in an archive server. The image, once it's received by Vim, it stores into archive server. From the archive server, metadata get extracted and then it passes to OCR. So here there is no manual involvement is required. System automatically captures the metadata and submits it to the validation after OCR is done to the validation client. From the validation, there's a separate validation team who validates the system extracted data. For example, vendor address, vendor ID, purchase order number, or invoice reference number, gross amount, document date. All these details gets captured by the OCR and by the system through automatic extraction process and defined rules. And then once the validation team verifies the data and submits from OCR, it comes back into Vim Workplace, and then from the Vim Workplace we can define rules. based on the business rules that we define, system triggers if there are any exceptions occurs. If there are no exceptions, then system automatically processes or creates a document into SAP system for payment processing. So that's how it will be built. It will be used for Vim will help in optimizing the performance, right? Optimizing the efficiency or the processing time, cycle times. Like you can also reduce the cycle times for payment. So the moment it comes from receives an invoice from the vendor to the moment that you make a payment to the vendor, the cycle time can be reduced drastically because you are automating this process, right? And also thereby you can increase the productivity. Increasing the productivity is nothing but you identify what from the invoices we have a reporting. From that exception reports, you can get where exactly the issue is occurring from particular vendor. That way you can understand from that vendor and you can work with the vendor to send the right data so that this productivity can be increased, right? And also you don't need a lot of manual power to reduce, to handle the invoicing process, wherein you can reduce the cost, right? By automating this process, automatically you can reduce the cost. That's and it is scalable, right? You can use it locally for one country, or it is globally available. You can use for globally across multiple countries to receive invoices through different channels. You can receive via email, or you can connect through a scanner, and then you can receive invoices from the scan copy from the PDF, or you can also get it from Ariba via IDOC channel. So these are different ways. Not only from Ariba, from non-Ariba systems also, you have an EDI system. You can connect it to SAP Vim and receive in an IDOC format. So these are all the options that are available in Opentext Vim. Okay. So here this process. Are you able to see my screen? Hello. Can anyone confirm that you are able to see my screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
So if you look at this Opentext, this is the one I was mentioning, that how we can automate this process. When we have Opentext Vim, we receive in different channels. Either you can receive in a PDF format, or in XML, or in an IDOC format, or document, right? PDF copy or a document via email. You receive invoices into Vim. And then once you receive the invoices, that will be subjected to, first it will be archived, and then once the scanning is done, it gets archived from the archive server. It submits into OCR. OCR will be done. That means metadata extraction. And then once the data is extracted, it will be transformed and submitted from validation client to Vim for verification process, wherein it triggers the workflow based on the business rules exceptions that we define. And once those exceptions are handled, right, and then this, for example, you also have approval process for non-PO invoices. It can be subjected to approval based on their chart of authority that we maintain, and it can also be derived from the HR mini master. So once those approvals are done, then it goes into S4 for payment processing. So all this process will be handled starting from receiving of invoice from the vendor until payment, until submission of invoice into SAP, which can further be handled by the payment process. This complete process, it can be handled efficiently and effectively by deploying Vim. Okay, and the same solutions are available in the market for other like Kofax earlier. Earlier, I think was it Tarun who was mentioning asking about the Kofax solutions and all. Those are available, but those are not native to Vim. So these workflows and all, it is a native SAP workflows that will be used, and this is completely integrated solution that is offered by Opentext with SAP, because the screens and all, it is same like SAP screen. Okay. So in our course, what we are going to deal with is how we can receive invoices, starting from receiving, how we can transform. OCR part we are not going to cover, because that is a separate topic altogether. That is hosted on the Windows server. But receiving of invoices, and then defining the document types, archiving, and linking the archive document type with the DP document type, and then defining the business rules. Once those rules are defined, triggering the workflows to the right actors. Once the actors are the determined agents resolve those exceptions, then it will, if it is a PO based invoice, it creates a LIV document, or if it is a non-PO based invoice based on the expense type, you can configure the system to submit the document into SAP. Those are the topics that we are going to cover. Okay, so just to give you a snapshot of how VIM looks like, right? Let me do one thing. So we have VIM analytics. This is called, so how we can access the VIM analytics is this transactions. Always VIM is used by /n/opt/vim_va2. Why? This is because OPT stands for Opentext. So all the transactions that you would see, it starts with OPT to the maximum whatever transaction that you see, right? And if you want to go to this transaction, click on /n/opt/vim. And system gives you the several options to see. Maybe you know the requisitioner, or you know the vendor ID, or you know the reference of vendor invoice reference number, or PO number, or you want to know the DP documents for a particular plant or for a particular company code, or based on the document type, right? I mean, whether it is a PO based invoice or non-PO based invoice. Based on that, you can always, or from the receiving channel, right? You have a channel ID. You want to know from which channel ID I have received invoices. You have ICC channel or IDOC channel or Nota Fiscal channel. That is through, I think it's for Brazil that they use for this NFE or OAWD. OAWD is direct manually scanning and placing the PDF copy directly from the system that you receive, scan copy, right? So these are all the channels that are available where you can identify the invoices that are submitted to VIM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this VIM analytics, and then it gives the results, right? This is DP document. This is the DP document that is used, and then here on the right side you would see what processes are used. Processor are nothing but the exceptions that you see. So here what happens is you would see the missing basic invoice data. There will be several exceptions that you would see. This is one of such exceptions. And also you have image. Let's say that you have an image that is received, that is sent by the vendor. You can always display here, but I think we have some archive server issue here. But otherwise it displays an invoice and line items. Let's say if it is a PO based invoice, it shows the line items and history, how it was received, starting from the receipt. It shows complete history of that particular document, right? And also, let's say during the process of invoice handling, if during any of the actor that makes comments, those are available in this comment section. So these documents, once you receive, and then let's say that I'm an accounts payable person, I go to the VIM workplace, right? And this is a VIM workplace. How we can access VIM workplace? This is /n/opt/vim_eep. Okay. This stands for VIM workplace, and then I go here in the VIM workplace. You would see several options. So I'm going to click on all users view. Here you get an option to switch the work overviews, because it is defined for different actors. But for now, I'm going to show you. So when I switch the work overview, you would see this execute option, right? Wherein you can execute. Execution is nothing but whenever you receive an invoice, you click on execute, and then system gives available exceptions, and then you can actually resolve those exceptions via this execute option. So when you click on that execute button, system gives all these options, right? And when you can actually click here, simulate rules. Under simulate rules, system shows what are all the rules that are defined, and those rules are whether it is failed or whether it is processed. Let's say that check data after restart is one of the process type that is mentioned, that's in green. That means this process, there is no more issue with this exception, that is clear. And let's say that you have 201 process type for non-PO, and this is an exception occur. Whenever there's an exception occurs, it will be shown in or displayed in red for the respective user to resolve those invoices. And these are all the This can be configured according to the requirement, business requirement. You can configure invalid currency, invalid requisitionary, for example, on your vendor invoice number, reference number, this is missing. So when you click on this message, for example, let's take invalid vendor ID, right? Vendor ID is not defined in company code. That's why it's giving this error. So let's say that I go here, I want to resolve this exception. What I'm going to do, I click on vendor, right? I search for company code. Let's say that I have several company codes. I'm going to pick one company code, identify. Primarily, it should be driven from the image that you receive. But however, for here, let me take for here, I'm going to take 1003, right? And then I have a vendor. Select vendor one. Click OK, right? This gets compiled. And then this exception, primarily when you key in the data, right? Click on save. And then when I click on save and go back to simulate rules, you see earlier we had this issue, invalid vendor. I have resolved this issue now because I keyed in the data because the data was not captured by SAP or from the OCR. But when it receives into VIM workplace, I'm going to resolve this. Likewise, let's take an example of invalid currency. When I click on this message, it shows that exception invalid currency has occurred. So what I'm going to do is we have currency right here. Company code currency should come here, but it is since we don't have any company code here, it's giving this error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the company code. $1,003. Click on enter. When you click on save, this data gets captured and see whether this invoice currency is resolved or not. Right? Involved, still it is giving the error. Let's go ahead and check if the currency is defined or it is not configured. So system is looking for that currency. We need to populate that currency. Usually, once the system is configured, it shows it will show the system will automatically populate the currency field. I just want to show you here for this demo. Here we have this currency field. Give me one minute. Document currency is missing right here. It is not showing.
Satya, if you see on the basic tab itself, we have amount, and after that amount there is a field which is blank.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's the field looking.
Yeah.
So usually, I mean, we don't get this currency unless it is not identified. But this is how you can resolve, right? If some data is missing now, you can see this.
This gets automatically populated based on the company code currency.
Company code and populate is not configured, so it shows these exceptions. So whenever you find a missing data, those details you populate here, so that the missing data or any exception that occurs, you resolve those exceptions and then click on apply rules. The moment you apply rules, what happens from VIM, all this document data will be passed via back in the background to my row in case if it is PO based invoice, or via FB60 if it is non-PO based invoice for creation of this document via background into SAP for further processing, for payment processing, right? And let's say during this process you have some exceptions occurred and you want to refer to some for information, right? You can use these options. Refer for vendor maintenance. Let's say that there's some issue with the vendor data and you want vendor master data team to handle that. So you can pass this DP document. This document 158 is called DP document, and this document will be passed over to the respective teams for processing. That way this document, it's a handover, right, from one team to other team for them to resolve. Once it is resolved, and once they click on apply rules, system automatically processes for the way you configure, right? If you want to have a separate exceptions after the main exception gets cleared, if there are no further exceptions, then system processes and submits the document. This is the whole structure of Vim, and mainly you'll be working on configuring this archive document types. For example, here if you see, we have DP document type is one, but DP document type you need to connect it to the archive document. So you see the archive document. So this is the linkage between archive document type and DP document type. Why do we need to link these two? Because you need to make a connection between the stored image and the DP document. For example, here if you see, you're receiving an invoice, right? Once you receive an invoice that gets scanned or via PDF, via email, that scanned copy gets archived, meaning that you are storing in an archive server. So in order to store that image, you need to have a linkage. So that's why you have an archive document type. And within that archive content repository, once that archive document type is stored, that archive server, that DP document will be connected to that archive link via URL. There will be XML URLs that will be used to connect these two, and then use the DP document whenever you want to retrieve an image. For example, we are trying to see this image, right? Here it is not displaying because this content server is not available. Otherwise, it makes a connection to the content server and then displays that image. Whenever for that particular DP document you want to view an image, that this will be the connection. So the DP document is connected to this archive document type, and via this content repository, it uses this URL or GUID to retrieve that image, right? And also you would see the channel. So we can, in this course, we're going to cover both, right? I mean, one, the PO-based invoice and non-PO-based invoice, how the business, how we establish the linkage, how we connect the archive document types with the DP document types, what are the number ranges that we're going to use, and what are the exception types that we're going to use, what are the business rules exceptions, how we build the chart of authority that will be used for creation of approval flow for non-PO invoices, and also PO-based invoices with the three-way or two-way match. For three-way match, in case of if it is a block due to the quantity variance or price variance, to whom that work item should go. For example, in case if it is a missing GR or due to quantity variance, system will route by default to the requisitioner on the PO. Should that be routed to the requisitioner, or sometimes there will be a requirement to route it to the recipient of that particular PO, so that the recipient can create a GR. Likewise, if it is a price variance, right? If the invoice is blocked due to the three-way match PO invoice process after posting from Vim to S4 or ECC, if the variance is due to price block, or if the invoice is blocked based on the tolerances set in SAP, and if that invoice is blocked due to price variance, then such work item goes to the buyer to resolve or update the PO price, so that invoice gets paid or updated. Once the buyer updates the PO, we'll be having a background job for a transaction MRBR, which releases automatically if that PO update matches the invoice tolerances, and then invoice block gets removed, which will be used for payment process, right? That's the whole process in the Vim. Do you have any questions to me? Do you follow me, or do you have any questions? Hello.
We are following. Yeah.
Yeah, we are able to follow it.
Okay, great. Okay, so primarily this is the whole process. I can give you some snippets about the OCR, how that works, what we have in the OCR. We'll be having customizing client as well as the validation client. But here we do not have the OCR. We only have a VIM where I can show you this complete process in the DP document side. And for Ariba, I think Ariba, I mean, same process is applied. Once we get an IDOC, same exception gets triggered. Once it resolved, everything it remains same. Here, the only difference is that you would be receiving, for example, it says OAWD. So when you go to the OAWD transaction, right? When you go to the OAWD, here you can select under which document type that you want to place. So for example, here we have early storage, right? Here we will be using the early archiving. Early archiving, I think we need to use this early archiving for entry. 1 second. This is not the setting. So here you have an option drag and drop. Here you can drop a PDF copy into, this is OAWD. So once you submit an invoice, either you can go through this process or you can also go directly into the VIM workplace, wherein you get an option here, scan. You see scan option. When you click on scan, it's nothing but it calls OAWD, wherein let's say that you have a scanned image that is available. You received an invoice from the vendor for the PDF. You can either forward it to the defined VIM email channel, or you can directly download into your desktop and then place into this OAWD. So here it gives the same option. Right. Select this one, you get an option, archive document. You could drag and drop the PDF copy and then click on archive. So that gets archived. Archive nothing but it stores that image into the archive servers, which will be used for OCR if you define. And certain cases that you do not need to go through OCR. You do not want system to extract data, or maybe a scenario wherein you have urgent payments, that there is a delay in the vendor payments during month end. In such cases, wherein you can ask, you can bypass OCR. Without going to OCR, you can directly receive in the VIM workplace, wherein you can manually key in the data for urgent payment processing. So such kind of facilities available in. Okay, you have any other questions before I move on?
Nothing from my side.
Okay, great. Yeah, these are the topics that we are going to cover in this course, during this course. Apart from that, I mean, primarily what we can do is we can focus on the characters, like each country specific rules also you can define. For example, India, you have a GST or a PAN number as a kind of requirement. GST is one of the key mandatory for country, but you do not need for other countries, right? Rest of India, you do not need that. So that way you can configure the country specific rules also. That will only trigger for that country. When the document is submitted, it looks at the system looks at the company code's country. If it is India, then apply these business rules. If it is not India, then do not apply these rules. So those things we can build for the country specific, or it's called characteristic specific configuration. We will also go through those details. Okay. All right. That's all I have. Subbu, over to you. Hello, Subbu. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Satya, tell me.
Yeah, I'm done with my demo, and I'm passing it over to you if they have any questions for the participants in terms of training timings or all those details.
Hello guys, have any doubts?
Yeah, one question, Satya. So you say the country-specific characters. So how do you define that? Can you just briefly explain on that?
It is a standard configuration, Lakshit. I mean, once we go through the configuration, then we're going to cover that in brief.
Okay.
Hello, Naveen, Nirmala, Ramesh, Satya, Tarun. Have any doubts? Today wind up the section actually.
So, Nirmal this side. So my question is related to the document. What are the documents you are going to provide in the training, and what is the structure of training? How many days it will be over, and all those stuff.
Okay, so this that's a good question. So primarily it is going to be during 6 hours, 6 weekends we're going to cover, and then it goes anywhere between 1 to 1.5 hours, and primarily we're going to cover the archive document types, connecting the archive documents to the DP document types, defining the business rules, defining the workflows for those business rules, and defining the process options, defining the process types, and then building the workflows for the non-PO approvals, and we use the comment section or determining the baseline date or posting date, and determining the backend documents, right? And also use the return to vendor functionality. Those details we are going to cover in our course.
Okay. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. All right. So if there are no further questions, I'm closing this call. Thank you all. Thanks for your participation. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Satya. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.